It was massive. The church was built with stone. It had about 10 gargoyles at the front of the church. Weirdly, they seemed to look at Michael with uneasiness at all times. He ignored it though. Inside the church was immense, although very few people were there. Michael could see everything. The pictures that were made with glass, the statues that looked very realistic, and the hundreds of seats that were in front of him. It was all a very serene setting. He could even smell the bread and wine that had been set on the table where the priest stood. Although it smelled good, the wine tasted odd. Touching the walls of the church, he felt a lot of dust on it. Catching his eye while feeling the dust under the door, he heard and saw the lawnmower cutting the grass with his headphones on. Michael could not take his eyes off him as he seemed awfully familiar. He seemed to be wearing pitch-black sunglasses, so it was difficult to tell who he was. The stranger glanced back at Michael with a disturbing smile that he couldn't clear out of his mind. Sitting down on one of the benches, closing his eyes to pray, he heard the engine of the lawnmower stop and opened his eyes to see one of his friends, John, standing beside him. "Hey, Mike, what are you doing here, homie?" said John. "Is that any of your business?" said Michael. "Come on, man, I'm your bro, you can tell me anything," said John. Mike signed. "My dad came a lot to this church, so I decided to come here every day until he comes back." Mike said, "Come back? What do you mean?" "Well, oh nuts, I'm late for my bus. Anyway, I'll catch you later, homie," John said while running towards the door. Mike went back to praying until he heard the gardener turn on his lawnmower again. I'm so sick and tired of that guy always with his lawnmower every morning," he exclaimed. He opened his eyes and realized something bizarre. The few individuals that remained on the church were now exiting, leaving Michael alone, disturbed, isolated with the lawnmower. He had only closed his eyes for a few seconds. Hearing the sound of the tractor getting closer and closer, he stood still as the door creaked open behind him. Quickly, glancing over his shoulder, he saw a masked man wearing all black and not leaving a trace of who he was at all. He held a big tool with a sharp point attached to a rotating engine, a chainsaw. That was when Mike realized he heard not the lawnmower, but the sound of a chainsaw. The masked man walked toward Michael while starting the brutal machine. In a deep and somber voice that he had never heard before, so terrifying, it scared the crap out of him. The masked man yelled,
"Hello, Mike. I have been waiting for this for too long, and now you must die."
"Who are you? What do you want?" exclaimed Mike in a fearful and horrified voice. The unknown man reached his mask. He took it off slowly, as if he had all day to be there. "Recognize me?" Mike looked in despair. "You know, Mike, I had a perfect life. I had a family, I was healthy, and most important to me, I was happy. Until one day Father adopted you. You were better at everything I did and made Father proud. I felt like a failure. I drank and drank to forget, even though Father never wanted me to drink, so he kicked me out of the house. I was in deep rage, filled with sorrow. Now, like me, you have to pay the price for what you did to me, you heartless monster." I'm sorry, but you knew Father would have replaced you." "That's exactly why I kidnapped him, to show him I had no mercy and would seek revenge." "Enough talk," he yelled. Everything went dark. Mike could not see a thing as his heartbeat sped faster and faster. He didn't hear the unknown man anywhere. There was a very long silence that felt for minutes, but minutes that felt for hours. He heard footsteps at one point getting closer and closer to him. Mike ran while bumping into every pillar and chair that was in his way. He tried to find the door, but he couldn't since it was too dark. Finally, he fell. He felt weak and fragile, as if something earlier had affected him. Falling to the ground, he heard the chainsaw one last time, as well as the laugh of his brother.